lot of people, when they talk about things, they frame it like a TED Talk or something where it's like, I knew at the time. I realized I was internalizing these ideas, but I couldn't have told you at the time this is what it is. But too much money and too much time wrecks creativity. I skipped rehab in his 20s and decided to go to conflict resolution workshops in Santa Fe, which I both recommend and I do not recommend unless you love turquoise jewelry.
Stephanie Jones is going to put pressure on Blake Lively to settle. I guarantee it. Well, allegedly, something just happened that changed everything. I had already recorded a full video talking about Tay and Blake, including why Tay doesn't want to do a deposition and why she's about to get a subpoena. I was going to explain why Tay isn't defending her friend, but while I was putting the video together, I noticed my hard drive was full, and I accidentally deleted all the audio. So now, I'm bringing you a more important story. It's about Stephanie Jones's attorneys talking with Billy Bush on Extra TV. I'm not going to show you the full interview because it's ridiculous, but I'll summarize their answers. It was strange how they responded to some questions. Billy sat down with Maren Shaw and Christian Tyler, two attorneys representing Stephanie. Shaw told Billy they planned to take her clients, mentioning a story in Business Insider that they believe was part of a plan to harm her. They also said they were going to be rich, happy, and make lots of money together. They also claimed they were being abused by Stephanie. It's really ironic that her attorneys don't even consider that Stephanie was probably a very hostile boss, acting inappropriately. I'm shocked she hasn't been sued by her former employees for workplace discrimination, a hostile work environment, or retaliation. But maybe that's just me. Instead, they're cherry-picking what fits their story. Billy asked, "The biggest issue for me is the text messages that appeared in the New York Times on December 22nd. Baldoni and his team have cried collusion. You say those texts weren't leaked, but you were subpoenaed by Blake." Shaw replied, "That's right, Billy. Our client, Stephanie Jones, is dealing with a lot of speculation right now. She's been in the industry for years, and she filed this lawsuit to protect her business, her clients, and the reputation she's worked so hard to build." It's interesting that they claim they're protecting Stephanie's clients because Stephanie didn't protect her own clients. She was out there sharing private information. Stephanie was sharing private messages and confidential information with third parties who had nothing to do with her. She had no reason to give that information away. She's been fired by so many people, and now they're trying to blame this so-called hit piece on Business Insider. Why did all of her clients drop her? Why did Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez, and so many corporations drop her? Why did over 40 people speak to Business Insider? Yet, it's still Jen Ale who took the hit. Maybe the women wanted to escape their toxic work environment. Then Billy asked about Jenelle, who left and joined Belden's crisis PR team. Jenelle said she's here because there were real breaches of contract by her former employer, Wayfair and Justin Baldoni. They had a contract with Jones Works, but they broke it. Billy asked, "Does Wayfair owe money to Jones Works?" Taylor responded, "Absolutely. At least a couple of $100,000. Stephanie is asking for $250,000, even though she was the one acting out of line. After being fired, she gave all their information to Blake Lively." Billy went straight to the heart of the matter with a tough question. Did Stephanie know the subpoena was coming from Blake Lively's shell company, Vanzin Inc.? Instead of answering, they dodged the question. The subpoena came from a shell company, and I love that Billy called it that because a shell company is used to hide things, whether it's for criminal activity, hiding assets, or laundering money. Shell companies are often involved in white-collar crimes like tax fraud, money laundering, racketeering, and extortion. It's a company with no real business behind it. Instead of answering the question, they dodged it and said, "Let's just say the process used was fully appropriate." But that's not an answer. The real question was whether they knew the subpoena was coming from a shell company, used to hide the true identity behind it. They didn't answer and tried to shift the focus, claiming it's normal and common. Why? Because if they admitted to what they did, they'd be facing civil liability. The attorneys know that if they admit the truth, they could face ethical violations or even risk being disbarred. They're more focused on defending Stephanie and appearing in another tabloid video to support her again and again. But the truth is, they wouldn't be in this position if the subpoena hadn't been leaked to the public by Stephanie or one of her friends. We wouldn't have found out what's going on if that hadn't happened. Now, they're acting like we didn't see what we saw. Billy asked if it was legal to do this, and the response was that it's absolutely not. but it's a common practice. If someone is defamed and doesn't know who did it, they can file a lawsuit citing a defaming website. Taylor explained, "You want to find the person behind the website, you file a lawsuit to identify them." Then, Billy asked, "What do you expect to happen here?" She replied, "We're moving forward with our legal claims. They're strong and well-founded, and we're taking them to trial." When asked if Brian Friedman came to them wanting to settle, they said, "Never say never." The court didn't give the proper order to issue the third-party subpoena. Even though they could have used the subpoena this way, they didn't go through the right channels. In New York, where the laws are pretty relaxed, they would have needed a judge to sign off on the subpoena. But no judge was assigned to this case. If Stephanie knowingly handed over documents to Blake Lively just days after Blake filed this lawsuit and didn't inform her employee or the former clients she was targeting, that raises major red flags. They're doing this interview now to protect Stephanie and the company she built. But what I'm expecting, and suspecting, is that behind the scenes, people are asking themselves, if I fall out with Stephanie, will she turn over all my private messages to my enemies? Will she use them against me in the press? It looks like that's exactly what happened. Stephanie didn't notify Jen, she didn't give Wayfair a chance, and neither did Blake. And now, to defend this behavior, they use a hypothetical example about defamation lawsuits. But that's just deflection. Blake knew exactly who she was. On August 21st, Stephanie told Leslie Sloan about those text messages. They knew who was involved. Blake knew exactly who she was targeting, and she was after Justin. Blake knew exactly what was happening with Justin. He was the person she planned to blame, along with Melissa, Nathan, and Jenny. She had her targets all lined up. She knew exactly who she was going to sue. There was no need for any undercover work to figure out who was behind a website, because no website like that existed. There were no lies from Stephanie Jones in this case. What we're really talking about are real victims of domestic violence who spoke out. And now these women claiming to defend Stephanie Jones and Blake Lively are doing a disservice to the real victims of domestic violence who disagree with Blake. They're a disgrace to women, all of them. On top of that, Blake Lively is not just under pressure from Stephanie Jones. She's realizing that leaking the subpoena to the tabloids might have been a mistake. Now she has to defend herself and call it normal. But that's not what her attorneys are saying. Stephanie's not just responding to a subpoena as they try to imply. It's a different story. And by the way, Taylor made it clear yesterday through a source to Entertainment Tonight that she wants nothing to do with Blake Lively's legal battle with Justin. She just wants to focus on herself and spend time with her boyfriend. Taylor: Swift is sending a clear message to Blake Lively. Settle this case or she's not getting involved. A couple of days ago, there was an article saying that Taylor might be subpoenaed for a deposition, with depositions due by August 14th. There are dozens of people who need to be deposed in a very short time, so Taylor doesn't want to be dragged into all of this. She's telling Blake that she's not going to help her. Why? Could it be that Taylor knows something more? Maybe Blake tried to cheat on Ryan, and that's why Taylor's backing off. Allegedly, people close to Blake, like Brittany Mahomes, were talking about this on a girls' trip over the weekend, suggesting that it wasn't about sexual harassment. Instead, Blake tried to cheat on Ryan, and when Justin rejected her, she's now claiming sexual harassment. If that's true, could it explain why Taylor doesn't want to help? Perhaps Taylor knows more than she's letting on. And let's not forget those flirty texts between Blake and Justin, with Justin not reciprocating. It's always been a topic of speculation. There's nothing like a woman scorned and a husband jealous of a lover. I still stand by the belief that a lot of this drama started because Blake tried to use her sexuality to initiate an affair with Justin, but when that didn't work, she flipped the narrative by claiming sexual harassment to gain control of the situation. That's my gut feeling, and I'll stick with it. I think Blake convinced her husband that she was sexually harassed to save her marriage and prevent him from leaving her after she got caught trying to cheat. She had already cheated on Penn Badgley to get with Ryan, and reportedly was also involved with Ben Affleck when he was married to Jennifer Garner. Blake's been linked to other co-stars while still married to Ryan, who knows all too well how they got together, both having been unfaithful in their pasts. It's not hard to believe that maybe Blake tried to use that situation for some personal gain while away from Ryan, and when it backfired, she had to save face. Now we're here with Taylor Swift saying she doesn't want to be involved. Stephanie Jones's attorneys are out there claiming there's nothing to see, but hinting they might settle. But why settle? Why is their client in the middle of all this speculation? Stephanie started it by running to the press, and now she wants to settle. There's definitely pressure on her. Taylor says, "I don't want a part of it." And suddenly I'm getting emails from people who were on girls' trips or whose friends were with Brittany Mahomes, and apparently Brittany told her friends on the trip that Blake tried to have an affair with Justin, but he shut her down. That's when all of this started, and that's why no one's supporting her, allegedly. I can't say for sure because I wasn't with Brittany, but it sounds believable. Why would two things happen at once? Why would the affair rumors resurface? The same day Taylor wants out? Seems a little too strategic, doesn't it? It's a clear signal to Blake that her friends aren't going to back her because they know exactly who she is. So, what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.